how junk food keeps you broke. It's no surprise that junk food is really bad for you. A calorie is not a calorie, as stated by Robert Lustig in a seminar posted on YouTube by Stanford Healthcare titled, Is a Calorie a Calorie? Processed Food Experiment Gone Wrong? He talks about how productivity in the US has dropped, and in a study it was forecasted to drop correlated with higher consumption of highly processed foods. What I want to do today is prove that junk food keeps people broke. Let's start with the suspects. There's sugar, food deserts, and capitalism. First, why sugar? It's no surprise why companies like using sugar. Since the dawn of man, the only food our ancestors knew that wouldn't kill them if they ate it was sugary foods. These were fruits, but nowadays there are many, many foods that contain sugars. Pizza, salads, dipping sauces, soda, energy drinks, yogurt, the list goes on. So companies have furthered our ancestral addiction to sugar by putting it in everything we love to eat. The reason why we love to eat the highly processed foods is because of the sugar. The most popular use of sugar is in soda. The way that Coca-Cola has been able to survive for decades as a company is by mixing salt and sugar into their drinks. They put sugar in it because it tastes good, and they put the salt in so that you become thirstier. The sugar ends up masking the saltiness of the soda because sugar is greater than salt. So soda is bad for you because it has a crap load of sugar, which makes you fatter, and salt because salt dehydrates your body. This increases your blood pressure because it binds to water molecules in your blood, making it thicker. But why does sugar make you fat? Doesn't fat make you fat? Well, companies have been lying to your face for decades to cover up their sugary schemes. Sugar is like alcohol. Your body can't digest it properly. Even though it's a form of energy, your body can't utilize that energy like plants can. That's because we do the exact opposite of what plants do to generate energy. We literally do the reverse of what plants do. Plants grow fruit to store energy. That fruit falls to the ground when enough energy has been stored. Since we cannot break down sugar very well, I'm talking complex sugars by the way, we end up storing the complex sugars as fat in our bodies. Fat is easier for our bodies to break down, and in European countries, the people that live there eat tons of fat, and most of them were skinny until McDonald's arrived. Also, sugars, also known scientifically as carbohydrates, have led to the rise of obesity around the world. How does sugar keep you poor, though? For most people making the average wage, healthcare costs are ginormous. If you eat lots of sugars, you are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes and further complications of liver, thyroid diseases, gout, or the inflammation of the joints, kidney diseases, dental and gum diseases, and even dementia. So, although you theoretically pay less for food in today's money, you pay much more in tomorrow's money in the form of healthcare. What sucks is that this negatively impacts the entire population because you don't just pay for your own healthcare. Your bill covers the other guy's bill. Those healthcare costs will only increase as more and more people eat like crap. So, sugar is bad. It's probably the worst drug that humanity has been faced with. What about food deserts? How do those help junk food keep us poor? Food deserts are created when national supply chains cannot economically meet the demands of smaller populations. Because of this, small communities have less access to healthier foods and only provide access to highly processed foods. Most of the residents of food deserts have to drive 10 miles or more to have access to fresh produce. These people usually don't make enough money to pay for the gas bill and car maintenance those drives require. This further contributes to the poverty rate. Whether rural or urban, food deserts exist, and in a study titled Food Deserts, What is the Problem? What is the Solution? Researchers claim that there could be 6,529 food deserts in the US alone. They formed in urban areas where wealthier families moved from the inner cities to the suburbs. This decreased overall wealth in the urban areas and theoretically forced small businesses to shut down. The paper suggests that an estimated 50% of all grocery stores in the top three cities of the US between 1960 and 1980 closed due to the migration of wealthy residents from urban to suburban. Racially biased states, where states used to be Confederate, were found to have 5 times more supermarkets in white neighborhoods than African American neighborhoods. No wonder that African Americans suffer most from diabetes and heart disease, because we as a nation continue to discriminate. So, we know how food deserts are formed, what they are, and we can start to see how they keep the residents poor. These people are living near, at, or below the poverty line, and aren't attractive customers to supermarkets or grocery stores. This means that convenience stores now have to fill in the gap because businesses always find a way. People become obese, pay more in medical bills over time because they develop health problems. However, these people have an even bigger problem. They're stuck living where they live, they're stuck in poverty. Think about it, only so many jobs can be available in a small rural or impoverished urban area. Unless money is invested in those areas to produce better jobs, how will those people be able to make enough money to save up and leave their town for a better life? It would be incredibly difficult to do this with children. The average American cannot afford a $1,000 emergency if it came up. I wouldn't be surprised if people who lived in food deserts were those average Americans. And finally, something all average Americans hate is capitalism. Capitalism requires individuals to work exceptionally hard and smart for years until their success is shown. This success is based on the fact that the owner or CEO of a company works substantially harder than his or her workers and deserves outstanding compensation. The average CEO out of the top 350 companies in America made 14.5 million annually. For the average American making between 50,000 and 60,000 per year, it would take an estimated 400 years to make that much money, assuming you're not investing your income, assuming you're paying your bills and saving every penny. How does capitalism make junk food make you broke? Well, it's because studies show obesity makes you less productive. No surprise there somewhat. We know that obesity leads to health conditions that can hinder productivity. It costs private firms a total of $45 billion annually, and this paper was published back in 2010 by Cornell University, not including Duke University's study estimating the healthcare costs for obese people to total $73.8 billion that year alone. Researchers in the Netherlands found that 66% of obese people were more likely to have missed between 10 and 24 days of work due to illness or other health problems in the previous year, and they were 55% more likely to have missed 25 or more days. For average Americans, that can cost an extra $4,000 per year if they don't have the sick pay to cover it, or if they aren't showing up to work because their job won't let them take PTO, or if it forms a time off. The Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine wrote a paper stating how impacted certain job sectors' productivities were when comparing different BMI levels. If we were studying the economic and health impacts of obesity, why weren't we doing more about it? Why wasn't the government doing anything about it? Two very powerful industries are preventing reform: the food and drug industry and the health and medical insurance industry. According to IBIS World, a business research database and reporting company, author Cecilia Fernandez back in November of 2020 stated that three companies own more than 35.5% of total market share: Kroger at 19%, Albertsons aka Safeway, Vons, and Giant Food at 9.4%, and Publix supermarkets at 7.1%. Other notable brands with decent market share are Ahold Delhaize, H-E-B Grocery Company LP, Aldi Inc., Meijer Inc., and Whole Foods. All the names add up to 49% of the industry's revenue. All in all, the supermarket business, according to IBIS World, racks in over $600 billion per year. The health and medical insurance industry is made up of five key players. They are United Health Group with a 24.2% market share, CVS Caremark with 23%, Cigna at 13.6%, Anthem with an 11.7% share, and finally Humana with a whopping 7.5% market share. These companies account for 80% of the market share. The industry, according to author Gabriel Schulman of IBIS World, makes $1.1 trillion annually, while revenue has grown 5.1% from 2016 to 2021. Profit has grown by almost 20% year over year. Those are just tips of the iceberg. We haven't even talked about the pharma industry or the convenience and dollar store industries that benefit from the obesity epidemic. For many years, the government and big corporations taught us how to eat, how to go out for a bite instead of making it at home, how to make it more convenient instead of conceiving the consequences. Americans live an outlandish lifestyle they cannot afford. This is why we don't have food labels warning parents of the consequences of feeding junk food to their children. So, what can you do to keep yourself and your children's children from succumbing to the plague that is obesity and poverty? For starters, you can change your diet and become an example for others to follow. Share your experiences with others. Research into sugars yourself, become educated, and share this knowledge with your friends, children, and others. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe for more bacon.